What's up, everybody? Welcome to BioS3 Raw TV. So today we're going to talk about something that this question actually came from a friend of mine, Kevin. Kevin, thank you for sending me the email. We actually had discussed this, and his question was one that I answer a lot, but I never really delved into why this is the way it is. And he actually sent me an email and said, "Hey, should I count the protein that's in like rice, oatmeal, like trace amounts? Should I count that, or does that not matter because it's only trace amounts?" And I thought that was interesting. I said, okay, well, first of all, yes, you count everything, okay? Because number one, this is one of the very few times you'll ever hear me say anything about calories. There are no free calories at all, ever. None. No free calories. None. Not a single free calories out there, okay? See, I left no and took free calories out because there are no free calories. That's how that works, okay? Now, if something has a calorie, you put it in your body, it needs to be counted. Okay, fiber included. I know people will, Jerry, it's not digestible. It is actually fibers that are not digestible for us are actually food for the good bacteria in our body. Most people don't know that. But anyways, hang on. We're getting off the topic because my ADD is kicking in right now. So we got to keep moving forward. So let's say you have, like in oatmeal, you have like 2 grams. In rice, you have 1 gram. These are grams, right? Grams, right? Which technically, if they were milligrams, it'd be 2,000, 1,000, right? Other things that, you have plant proteins that say, there's broccoli, a certain amount of broccoli, it would be like 2 grams for whatever it is, it would be 2,000 milligrams, right? So you have grams that are turned into milligrams, right? So grams of protein turn into milligrams of amino acids, right? So you have protein here, amino acids here. Now, amino acids are being basically carried into your body by the protein. You eat protein and it breaks it down and gets the amino acids out of that protein, technically, and then it releases all the other toxins, wastes, and gets rid of it, and then it utilizes those amino acids, right? So just in this example, we would have 5,000 milligrams of amino acids. All different types, right? Essential, non-essential, etc. Now think about that, 5,000 milligrams. If you took an amino acid supplement, how many milligrams is it? Go and look at the capsules. 500, 750, 1,000. Take 5 capsules, it's 5,000 milligrams. So just the protein that you're taking in by a byproduct of trace proteins, you're going to get what you would be taking in the capsule form, right? So does it matter? Yes, it matters. Those amino acids absolutely matter. Now, what I want to do is go a little step further, right? And explain to you what happens to those 5,000 amino acids, because you have essential and non-essential, right? Essential needs, it means that you need to take them in every day. Non-essential means that the body can create them. Okay, so you have essential amino acids, non-essential amino acids. Now, doesn't matter whether it's essential or non-essential amino acids coming in. There is this thing, and I'm just going to kind of draw a little picture of it, right? Called the amino acid pool, or the nitrogen pool. They call it the nitrogen pool too. Okay, now, this is like a little holding tank. Right, a temporary, right? It's temporary, it's not long-term. Temporary holding tank for amino acids. So let's say you get those 5 different amino acids you had before, right? That are just traced from the foods you're taking, like oatmeal, vegetables, whatever, which is technically 5,000. I don't know why I just wrote a P. 5,000 milligrams of amino acids, right? 5 grams, 5,000 milligrams. So now with those 5 aminos, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wind up in this temporary holding place called the amino acid pool. Now, what does the amino acid pool do? I'm going to argue with science because I don't agree with science, and I'm a big fucking surprise. So we technically have long-term storage where we store glycogen, right? We take glucose, we store it as glycogen. Carbohydrates are broken down into glucose. Glucose is broken down into glycogen. We store the glycogen, right? We have fat that we eat, we digest different fats from our foods. We can store those as body fat, visceral fat. I mean, there's many different things that we can store body fat as, right? But what about amino acids? They said, well, we have this amino acid pool. Now, what's really interesting, right, and I think this is super cool, is some amino acids can take up to 6 months to break down. Other amino acids, a matter of minutes or hours. That's the difference. Like, it varies that much. So let's take the ones that are 6 months out of there, because those are not usually going to wind up in the amino acid pool, because your body's going to take a long time to break those, right? Okay, so minutes and hours. As your body is going through the different processes of rebuilding, breaking down, rebuilding, using different amino acids to create new amino acids, etc., different processes of the body, what happens is, within minutes or hours, you have roughly, they say adult humans have roughly 2 to 3 hours, right? Hours before this is completely empty again. Right? So you eat your food, right? You get taking 50 grams of protein or whatever, right? So after that 50 grams of protein is broken down, you're going to get X amount of amino acids, right? Let's say you got 50,000 milligrams of aminos, right? I'm just throwing these numbers out there so yes, you lose some of the weight because, anyways, protein to aminos, there is a discrepancy as to 1 gram of protein is 1,000 aminos. Well, what about all the byproducts that are lost too? So it can't add up to 1,000 being 1 gram. Anyways, it doesn't matter. This is for argument's sake to teach you how this works. All that matters is about how this works, right? And why you should count all of your protein. So you have 50,000 amino acids. Now what happens, these things start getting pulled out of here very quickly, right? It's being used for muscle, it's being used for hair, it's for different bodies synthesizing other aminos, other body processes, it's being pulled out of there. So eventually, within 2 to 3 hours, if you haven't had another meal or another amino acid supplement, this 50,000 aminos, 2 to 3 hours, is fucking gone. And when that's gone, you go from being in a positive nitrogen balance to a negative nitrogen balance. Remember, it's called the nitro pool also, right? If that thing's full, you're in a positive nitrogen balance. If that thing's negative, you're going to be in a negative nitrogen balance, right? What does that mean? Your body's not growing, it's breaking down. Negative, you're breaking down. Positive, you're growing or maintaining. Okay? So now you have this short-term storage, right? Well, Jerry, we have short-term, not long-term. That's what science says. We have no long-term storage. So we focus a lot on this. Now, unfortunately, here's where I differ with science. Science dictates that because we don't have a long-term storage, at least we have the short-term, and we have to consistently refeed this all the time. So the whole concept of eating every 2 to 3 hours wasn't bro. It was based on trying to keep a positive nitrogen balance. So you don't need 100 grams of protein every 3 hours. But eating every 2 to 3 hours keeps this amino acid pool chock full of aminos. And if that's chock full of aminos, when your body needs it, it's like building a house. If you need those aminos, those building materials to build a house, and they're there, you're going to build. You're going to stay positive. That was never a bro thing. That was based on science. The whole bro and science for people arguing about eating every few hours was that it increases metabolism. Well, pay attention. If this thing is stocked full of aminos and you're using these to repair your muscle mass, your lean body mass, right? Which it's needed for, right? Your lean body mass. Let's say you weigh 190 pounds. You're going to have a certain metabolism here, right? Or I should say 190 pounds of lean body mass, right? Lean body mass is 190 pounds. You're going to have a certain metabolism, right? If that goes down to 180 pounds of lean body mass, your metabolism is actually going to go down with it. You have less metabolically active tissue. Wait a minute. So if I lose muscle, my metabolism goes down. Yeah. So if I maintain my muscle mass, my metabolism stays up, right? Well, how do I maintain my muscle mass? You need amino acids. You need the amino acid pool to be full, to maintain your metabolism. So in essence, the bros were right. By keeping the amino acid pool full, you stay in a positive nitrogen balance, which keeps your lean body mass up, which keeps your metabolism up, which gives you a higher metabolism than if you were dieting down and losing lean body mass. What a fucking concept. I can't believe that I have to explain this because people are still fighting about it, but here we are. Now, one step further. Actually, I don't even need to erase this because I didn't even have to put it on the board. The whole bullshit scam about how we don't have long-term storage in our body for protein. That's why we have the amino acid pool. Hang on. See this right here? Yeah, Jared, it's a bicep. Pull that sleeve up. It's a bicep. It's a bicep. It's a muscle, right? What do you think muscle is? Muscle's made of amino acids, proteins, water, collagen, all kinds of different stuff, plasma, all kinds of different stuff, right? Well, what happens to that muscle? I just told you that we can go from 190 to 180. So that's 10 pounds of lean body mass, right? That disappeared. That has now been broken down and used for energy. Your body can break down amino acids and use them for energy. Matter of fact, protein is the only thing you need to survive. Check this out. If you ate all fats in your diet and didn't have enough protein, you're gonna die. That's just all there is to it. All fat, no protein, you're gonna die. If you ate all carbohydrates and no protein, you're gonna die. Because eventually your muscle mass, you don't have anything to keep your muscle mass. Eventually you will starve. You will starve your muscle mass, your metabolism, where you can't move despite having all these carbohydrates or all this fat. However, you could eliminate carbohydrates and fat totally from your diet altogether and eat enough protein, get this, to be turned into glucose, right? Gluconeogenesis, sorry. Or, and I mean, it's hard to do, but you can eat enough calories from protein that they can be converted to fat. So you can basically create fat and create glucose from amino acids and protein, but you can't create amino acids and protein from carbohydrates or fats. So what is the only essential thing that we really fucking need? Now we do need essential fatty acids specifically for hormone function. We absolutely do need that. But the bottom line is, what I'm saying is, the protein can actually turn into fat. So you could literally out-eat both of those macronutrients with just protein and still be able to live. But if you took protein out and only had carbohydrates or fats, you're gonna fucking die eventually. So I think there's a lot of, misunderstanding. Like there's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of missing links. I think that people don't make those jumps together, those links together. If we have muscle mass that can be broken down for glucose and used for energy, then how the fuck is that not being stored in the muscle? That means that all the muscle in our body can be broken down as you start to starve to keep you alive. That means we have a long-term storage in our body that has readily available amino acids ready to be used for energy, to build fat, whatever the case may be. It's called muscle tissue. You can lose muscle tissue by burning muscle. By burning muscle, basically it's the breakdown of muscle tissue and turning it into something else and being used for something else. So this whole thing about this is the only thing we have. No, matter of fact, protein is so important. We have two. We have a long and short-term storage, as opposed to, just like we have muscles and we have liver, right? We can store glycogen in both places. Very important, right? We have visceral fat. We have subcutaneous fat. People are not getting it. I don't think they understand because they don't make the links together, because people don't really look at it the way I do. And I think the board helps me a lot to describe it. Hopefully it helps you learn it and understand the things that I'm saying, because guys, this is stuff that we should all know. Like, it's not particular to me to know this. I know this because I want to know this. I know this because I've been studying for 32 years. I've been applying it for 32 years, and the things that people have told me didn't make sense. So I went out and researched on my own. I stopped asking other people, and I did the research myself. I looked at things logically, I looked at things scientifically, and I looked at things that didn't make any sense, right? If you can't answer to me why do we only have a short-term storage amino acid pool for amino acids in our body? Why don't we have a long-term storage? And people can't argue that. There's no fucking answer for it. Well, because we do. It's called muscle tissue. That long-term storage is active. It's metabolically active tissue that helps us do the things that we're doing and survive. It has another job besides just filling up this pool. It makes us who we are, which makes this thing even more important, because we need to have that thing full all the time. So when that runs out, we're fucked. Whether you know it or not, we're fucked. Starvation is where this happens to begin with. And think about that. Think about that. If you went, and I know a lot of people well, Jerry, intermittent fasting, you're not eating. That's right. And what happens with intermittent fasting? Go and look at all the research. It is almost, and I'm not saying impossible, because really hormones dictate whether or not you're going to fucking grow. Almost impossible for somebody to gain a bunch of muscle doing intermittent fasting. Why? Because the body's not fed like this. It's in the catabolic state more than it's in the anabolic state throughout the day. And if you have, it's like anything else. If you have more than one than the other, at the end of the day, that's the result. If you have more anabolic than catabolic, at the end of the day, that's the result. But 99% of the time, it's that way. So starving yourself doesn't necessarily mean you're going to maintain muscle mass. It doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily lose fat. You could be losing muscle. And if you're losing muscle, that's bad, because your metabolism shifts down, like downshifts, so that it can try to keep up with the fact that you're still alive. So what it does is get really efficient at making energy and not have to keep up with the energy from being in the positive nitrogen balance. It pulls that muscle tissue to make up for that deficit. And it keeps the body going. It says, we don't have enough energy. We don't have enough energy coming in. We can't repair ourselves. So let's pull down some of this muscle mass. We'll use that for energy. Whatever's left that we're not using for energy, we'll put back into the muscle tissue again and try to repair. But you never fully repair because this thing is empty. So be aware, guys. Count every single macro. Every trace amount, every calorie, everything. Anything that goes in your body, unless it's plastic or something like that, needs to be counted. Anything that has a micro or macronutrient value to it needs to be counted because your body does something with it. There's nothing that you take in, like I had some rice by itself, but the protein doesn't count because it went away. No, it winds up in here. When it winds up in here, it's going to be used. Now the problem that we have with that is, if you're eating only rice, you're going to get only certain amino acids. So food combining comes into play, which is a whole nother video, but food combining, where, let's be real, you want to chalk this thing up, you want to grow, have 1 ounce of beef, 1 ounce of turkey, 1 ounce of chicken, 1 ounce of tuna, and 1 ounce of eggs with every meal. You'll cover all the amino acids that your body needs. Have that every 3 hours. This thing would be so chock full of every amino acid, you cannot help but grow. Food combining is a whole, like I said, a whole other video. But the bottom line is, guys, there are no free macros. There are no freebies when it comes to any of the calories or macros. Anybody tells you otherwise is full of shit, or they just don't know what they're talking about. BossYouChicken@gmail.com. Leave comments down below, but don't fight. BossYouChicken.com is the blog, and so check it out. Long-term storage bicep. And we are out.